Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. Today we are going to look at how you can improve your final year project writing in terms of language and style. We would be covering substance, style, text, and meaning to help you in your writing success. Hi, my name is Aidin Farida and I am a lecturer at the Academy of Language Studies UiTM Cawangan Pulau Pinang Campus Permatang Pau. When you are writing, you have to adhere to a certain structure or format. However, I will not be covering any format today as you already have this handbook given by your faculty, which you can be easily accessed at the website. In general, academic writing is any kind of writing that is done to fulfill academic requirements by any universities. Writing assignments in academic contexts are considered as academic writing, and your audience are usually lecturers, graders, and your fellow academic colleagues. So the first section for today out of 2 is substance and style. And in this section, we are going to cover 3 topics, which are paraphrasing, summarizing, and synthesizing. Paraphrasing means expressing another person's ideas using your own words and giving credit to the original writer. You may use different citation formats such as APA, MLA, IEEE, and many others. Do look up your requirement for the FYP. A paraphrased text can be lesser, the same length, or even longer than the original text. And this is different from a summary, as a summary has to be shorter. There are 4 paraphrasing strategies, and each can be used on their own or combined. Let's look at the first one. Using synonyms. Synonym means a word that has similar meaning to another word. So a few examples are given. For example, complicated is complex. The synonym for try is attempt. Surpass also means excel. However, you can also replace phrases using synonyms and not just words. So for example, the majority of the respondents are men. And when paraphrased, more than half of the participants are males. And this is more commonly used than just paraphrasing certain words in academic writing. The second strategy for paraphrasing is by changing active voice to passive voice or vice versa. Active voice is mostly used in non-scientific texts as it concentrates on the doer of a sentence. Passive voice is mostly used in scientific writing, so for example, lab reports, research papers, academic essays. This is because the passive voice focuses on the action and not the doer. So let's look at example given. In the active sentence, the doer, which are the students, is right in front of the sentence, and the verb conducted is after that. The action follows. So the sentence is the students conducted several studies on building smart database system. When changed to passive, what is the action goes to the front and the doer is taken to the back, and it will be converted like this. Several studies on building smart database system were conducted by the students. However, most of the time, the subject is actually dropped, and you leave out the doer, and the sentence will actually turn out to be like this. Several studies on building smart database system were conducted. This is because when writing a scientific paper, you are not focusing on the doer, but rather on the action. However, active voice is sometimes more preferred as it is more straightforward. It is preferable to be straight to the point in academic writing. So which voice to use, active or passive? It depends on the situation and the requirement of the paper. The third paraphrasing strategy is changing order of ideas. So first, what you have to do is look at the ideas of the original text. If the original text mentions 3 main points and starts with the most important point, you can actually begin your paraphrase the other way around. So let's look at the example given. In the original text and paraphrase text, I have highlighted the main points in 3 colors. And look at how they are organized. In the original text, the most significant cause of electrical accidents is placed first, while in the paraphrase text, it is placed the third, and so on and so forth. The last paraphrasing strategy is by combining or separating sentences. A paraphrase can be of different lengths compared to the original text. So let's take these 2 sentences, sentence 1 and 2. When you paraphrase it, it can be combined to form only one sentence. However, do keep in mind that you have to combine different strategies to make your paraphrasing a good one and to avoid plagiarism, especially when you run it through authenticity software such as Turnitin. Do not just put and, A and D, to combine the 2 sentences, but rather try to use, for example, synonyms, and all the other strategies that we have discussed earlier. Let's move on to summarizing. So summarizing, as mentioned before, is shorter than the original text. There are 2 strategies. The first is selection and deletion, and this is especially suitable for texts which are rich with clearly stated main ideas, followed by detailed explanations and examples. What you need to do is search for keywords or points and highlight them, and delete the less essential points. Then you need to identify the controlling idea and central idea. You may choose to do this in a table form or in Microsoft Word paragraph form. The next strategy is note-taking. What you do is you take notes of each of the main idea. As you do so, you will see the connection between the paragraphs. So this is a useful technique if a complex idea is developed in many subsections. Your notes would act as an outline of the original text. So what's really the difference between paraphrasing and summarizing is paraphrasing is more suitable to be used for shorter text like a paragraph, while summarizing is more suitable for a longer text like a passage or the whole article. So you might not want to summarize, or you might not need to use the whole article, and you just need like a paragraph from a selected article. So what you do is use the suitable paraphrasing or summarizing techniques. So how do we do summarizing? We use reporting verbs to cite the original text. What you can do is you can include your intention in reporting the original text, whether you are neutral, speculative, or you are making strong claims. So making strong claims is good if you are really confident with the results of your experiment or your research. So these are a few words that is suitable for each intention, whether you're neutral, speculative, or strong. And 3 examples are given. Do look up online for more reporting verbs that you can use. So what are the components of a summary? There are 3 parts. The first is called the introductory sentence. And here you write the introductory sentence by citing the source and using a reporting verb. which is in the present tense, to introduce the main idea. So the few examples are given here. The second part, which is the body, is the content of your summary, which includes main points, supporting details. And the last part is the conclusion, which is optional. You may reiterate or restate the main idea of the original article here using different words. Let's move on to the next topic, which is synthesizing. So synthesizing means gathering or assembling a number of sources into a coherent text. Coherent means something that is easy to be understood and it flows really well, that people can follow what are your steps or techniques. Before you can synthesize different texts, you should analyze them first. So what you can do is, when you want to analyze a text, is you can look into these: the category, the purpose, tone, the intended audience, central or main ideas, and the supporting ideas. But of course, this part is not included when you are writing. But you need to do this in order to understand what you want to synthesize. It may take some time to do the analysis, but once you do, it will be much easier for you to recall important points or passage or text that you want to include in your research. Still did not get what is synthesizing? Okay, here is a brief look. You should analyze at least 2 texts to be able to synthesize. And when you do that, you will need then to focus on their similarities and differences. And then you can form topics or subtopics based on the similarities or differences that you have identified. Reorganize the ideas, and this combination is called a synthesis. So let's look at the diagram here. A stands for article 1 and B stands for article 2. For any articles that you take, there will be at least slight differences or similarities between both. When you look at their differences and contrasts, or when you do and look at the similarities and compare, this is what we call a synthesis. Here are a few examples of how to synthesize. Like summarizing, we also use reporting verbs. And in these 2 columns are words for us to write about similarities and also differences. An example is given for each to show you more clearly how to compare and contrast at least 2 articles. The second section for today is text and meaning. And in this section, we will be looking at the organization of ideas, being concise, being objective, being formal, subject-verb agreement, and the common tenses used in academic writing. In organization of ideas, there are actually a few ways for you to do that. Okay, so here I've listed 6, and each you can look up these resources through the QR codes. Both were taken from different writing centers. One is from Colorado State University and the other one is Indiana University. And the 2 resources will explain further in detail what are these organization of ideas and how you can choose the best one to fit your writing style or research requirement. In academic writing, it is really important for you to be concise. So concise means giving a lot of information clearly and in a few words. In other words, you need to be brief but comprehensive. So how to do this is you need to be straight to the point. Examples include, firstly, the second point relates to. You should also replace phrases with single words and avoid circumlocution, meaning do not beat around the bush when you are writing academic papers, especially scientific ones. There are a few examples given with original versions and the suggested versions. So in the original version, at the moment, you can always write it as now. With regard to, about, okay, just make it short and sweet. Then you should also avoid saying the same thing twice, meaning don't repeat yourself. In the original version of the example, many illiterate adults who are unable to read combat depression. So illiterate means somebody who is unable to read. So the suggested version suggests to delete the explanation who are unable to read, because you are just repeating the meaning of illiterate. Next, in academic writing, you should also be objective. So when we say being objective, it means that you are not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering or representing facts. This means that you need to refrain or stop yourself from using value judgment words. For example, amazing, bombastic, terrifying, failure, wonderful, bad. Be as objective as possible and report your data as honestly as you can. Avoid using first-person personal pronoun of I. For example, I recommend using ultra-high frequency UHF text to increase. You should use the suggested version, which is, it is recommended to use ultra-high frequency. So, as you can see, the doer is not stated. It is just the action. You should also express points directly. For example, instead of the whole classroom of engineering students sat for the test, you should write the engineering students sat for the test. So the main thing to remember about being objective is to be short, sweet, and straight to the point. Next, you need also to be formal, as remember, this is academic writing. So when we talk about being formal, this means that you need to refrain from using contractions. Contractions means simplified form of don't, won't. So instead of saying don't, we say do not. Instead of saying won't, we'll say will not. Also, do not use exclamation marks and slangs. Let's move on to subject-verb agreement. The subject is the who or what performing the action in the sentence, and the verb is the action in the sentence. So generally, if the subject ends with an S, then the verb doesn't have an S, and vice versa. Just look at the examples given. The next and last section for today is common tenses in academic writing. There are many tenses in English, as tenses are used to show different time frames. One of the most common tenses in academic writing is present simple, or it's also known as simple present. So a present simple tense is used to demonstrate or show a general principle, while it can also be shown to talk about someone's opinion, the results of an experiment, a habitual action in the present. And a habitual action does not only mean something that you do every morning, every night, or every day. It can also be something that you do once a year, once every 10 years, but as long as it's a habit. A simple present tense is also used in explaining a theory, a claim, and a fact. The next commonly used tense is past simple or simple past tense. It is used to show what happened. For example, results were obtained from the lab experiments. It can also be used to show what happened in the past but is different now. For example, in the past, such methods were simpler. So maybe now such methods are more complex. Past simple tense can also be used to show ideas that were held in the past but are no longer held, meaning it might have been changed, new technologies have been found, a cure or vaccine have been developed, and so the ideas that were held last time are no longer true. For example, people thought that dengue could not be cured. Used to is also used to compare the past to the present. For example, people used to win smaller prizes, and this implies that the situation has changed. The next commonly used tense is the present perfect, and this is used to indicate an action that occurred at a non-specific time in the past, and this action has relevance in the present. For example, recently numerous researchers have adapted this method. It can also be used to introduce background information in a paragraph, and after the first sentence, the tense will be changed to the simple past. The example: many researchers have studied how small business owners can be successful beyond the initial few years in business. They found common themes among the small business owners. So present perfect is used to show something that has started and has not ended. The next commonly used tense is future. The future tense is used to describe an action that will take place at a particular point in the future. And at UiTM, this is used especially when writing a proposal. For example, I will conduct semi-structured interviews, and after will, the verb that follows is in its base form. Thank you for listening. If you do have any questions, do leave them in the comments section below.